Hello and welcome to Mystic Visions with DrShiny. This is a monthly tarot card reading for Leo for the month of March. So this is a general reading. It's going to be using my adaptation of a Celtic cross, and being a general reading, it's meant to apply kind of broadly for lots of different situations. So if you don't feel it resonate with you, this just really isn't for you. But let's go ahead and get going and see what we have for Leo. Okay. All right, so Leo, what you have here is the Eight of Wands for your current situation, but it's in the reverse. So that kind of means that there's maybe a little bit of a stale energy, or you're waiting for action, and it's maybe not coming. So there's something that you've been kind of expecting to happen, and maybe it's stalled out a little bit. Then there's another possible interpretation here too, where instead of like waiting for action that is stalled, you're kind of resistant to something that's going to happen, or something that could happen, being a little bit afraid of randomness or things like that. So there's kind of two possible interpretations there. Whichever one of those applies to you is up to your individual interpretation. Now, what's crossing you is the Page of Wands. And the Page of Wands is like it's kind of a childlike, immature energy. The wands are all to do with action and willpower and getting things done. And that's a good energy, but with the Page here, he's kind of, he jumps the gun a little bit. He doesn't necessarily always have everything in place, what needs to be there before he jumps in and does things. So he can be a little bit rash, or it can come off as, haphazard. He's not really putting in the work, the due diligence to get things to go according to plan, or to go off in a good way. He also has this energy of just kind of getting things moving, breaking up stale energy. So it kind of makes me think that of those two possible interpretations I was giving you of that Eight of Wands in the reverse, it may be that you kind of are resisting change. You don't want a lot of randomness. And this Page of Wands is kind of like breaking that monotony. And when I say monotony, that kind of has a negative connotation, but maybe you have like a good routine, or you have like a predictability in the way that your life is going, and you're quite comfortable with that. And this page may be kind of like throwing a wrench in your plans. So it could be something that's like annoying you in that type of a way. Now, what you have for what you're traveling away from, or what you're leaving behind in the past here, is the Queen of Cups. And so the Queen of Cups is very emotionally stable. She has a lot of control over her emotions, or if not control, because that's probably the wrong way to think about it. It's really more that she doesn't resist her emotions, and they don't like get out of control, because it's like, you think of your emotions like a river. And if you like dam that river up and you don't allow it to flow, then the power behind those emotions kind of grows until it's more difficult to control, right? So the Queen doesn't block up her emotions at all. She allows them to flow, and she has a good relationship with them. She's able to kind of utilize them in a healthy way, instead of letting them become just like violent outbursts or things that don't work in her benefit. So moving away from this energy means that, there may have been some stability, there may have been some kind of ease of working with your emotions, and now you're getting into a place where your buttons are being pressed a little bit more, possibly getting a little bit annoyed, and things are a little bit more difficult to deal with, right? And one of the things I would say is, if you're resisting these changes, or if you're kind of trying to keep things predictable and calm, then what may happen is you may have had like a stability, but it's easy to be stable when things are going really well. It's much harder to be stable when things are kind of up in the air or tumultuous, right? So that's when your strength is really tested. Now, if you were in that kind of a position and you weren't, necessarily feeling great about yourself and you were thinking, I'd like to be stronger, well, you kind of, when you think that way, you're inadvertently calling forth situations that stress you out. You're kind of like sending a signal out into the universe and saying like, I need to get stronger. Well, if the universe is going to listen to you and it's going to make you stronger, it doesn't just magically zap you with strength. It is going to give you opportunities to be stronger or to gain self-confidence and recognize your strength, right? So, what you may be entering into here is a little bit of a test that is meant to sort of make you a little bit stronger in the long run, or at least prove to you that you are capable of more than you might think. What you're moving toward is this Three of Cups in the reverse. Now, a little disclaimer, this is, the direction that you're currently headed. Think of it like a snapshot. So this isn't like set in stone. You are very free-willed. You're allowed to choose whatever path you want. But this is kind of like a snapshot of the direction that you're headed right now if you don't like change anything, right? And so what you have in your near future, or what you're moving toward, is some tumultuous relationships, or to not have like a good sense of fellowship, maybe alienation from friends, or it could be animosity that you feel toward people where you don't really want to hang out with them, and they could be a wonderful. There's a potential there for them to be a good friend, to have fellowship and to give you company and those kind of things, but you might be sort of pushing them away and not really understanding why. And it could be that you're not comfortable with that sort of randomness. But anyway, what you have for your foundation is this star in the reverse, and the foundation kind of represents the sort of lesson that the universe is kind of teaching you through this situation. This is the frame that kind of surrounds this entire scenario. What are you being taught through this, right? And what you have is the star in the reverse, which means in general to not really be trusting or having faith in the universe and the grand plan. This means kind of wanting to have a little bit more control, possibly like intellectual control, to know how things are going to go, to have like more of a sense of security, and the situation here is meant to teach you how to kind of let go and release that need to feel like things are under control, and to instead be a little bit more go with the flow, right? And the way you can look at it is, a lot of people are always looking for like solid ground to stand on. They don't want to be on shaky ground, right? They want to feel like they're stable, like they have quite a bit of stability in their mindset and in their belief systems and just what they think in general. But a lot of people come across an experience sometime in their life where they kind of realize there is no solid ground, that all there is, it's like there's water. So if you're constantly searching for the solid ground, you're like constantly almost drowning, and you have to come up for air. And so there is another way of life, which is where you kind of float, right? You, instead of looking for that solid ground, you're just kind of floating freely, and you're allowing yourself to kind of go wherever that storm takes you with a more positive attitude. You're not fighting it, you're kind of going with it. And if you think about it, like if you're really trying to like get to the bottom of the pool, I don't know if you're a good swimmer, but if you're really trying hard to get down to the bottom of a pool or something like that, you have to fight pretty hard to do it. It's kind of hard to, because you just want to float back up to the top. But on the contrary, if you're trying to float, a lot of times you find yourself sinking. So it's kind of weird, isn't it, that whatever you're trying to do is kind of backfiring. And really what the cause of that is that it's a little counterintuitive, but if you're searching after security, for example, what you're really doing is reinforcing the idea that you don't have it in the first place. If you're searching for wealth, what you're doing is teaching yourself subconsciously that you don't have wealth. And so the more you seek after wealth, the more you're reinforcing this idea that you don't have it, you know? So that's kind of a universal law in the universe, universal in the universe, right? So the lesson here is to be able to kind of trust and let go, and to not seek after things, and kind of play with or experiment what that mindset does to your reality, right? So just kind of play with, instead of stressing out and thinking like, oh, I need to get more or I need to have more, every now and then think, well, I have all I need. And, you know, even if it's not necessarily true, just play with that mindset and see what happens in your reality, you know, see if it works for you, because it does for me, and I know it does for a lot of people. It's called the law of attraction. So what's in your conscious mind, or this is what's, you know, been on your thoughts more, your crowning thoughts is what this card is called, and that is the Four of Cups in the reverse. So, you know, this can mean that you're wanting to feel happier. You're resistant to feeling negative emotions, and so that may be kind of why you're straying away from having more of like a random wild ride, and you're looking for a little bit more security or stability. But in reality, the way that I would put this, I mean, it kind of goes into what I was just saying, but if you're trying to be happy all the time and never feel those negative emotions, or never opening yourself up to those negative emotions, you're closing yourself down completely, because it's only those negative emotions that give those positive moments in our lives contrast. It's very difficult for you to appreciate the good things in life unless you've also experienced some of those bad things, those negative aspects. So it's like, what consciousness really is the definition between dark and light, pleasure and pain, good and evil. All of those things are the recognition of the differences between those things is what really consciousness is. So if you're trying to make it so that there's all good and no bad, or all you know, bright and no dark, then what you're doing essentially is striving to not be conscious anymore. And so, you know, that kind of can backfire on you. So it's really more than just eliminating all the bad. It's more about like learning to carry forward and carry the light of your own being into those dark places with you, and seeing how that light can affect the environment around you, right? Now, your advice for the current situation is this King of Coins. And he's in the reverse. So King of Coins in the reverse is somebody who's not very fiscally responsible, or has made some bad financial decisions or something like that. And you know, I'm struggling to put this into words for your advice, but what I think is coming to mind here is there may have been some situations in the past where it's kind of led you to this mindset of scarcity, or being afraid. And there may have been some bad decisions that were made, but it doesn't need to completely affect your mindset. So you may have kind of strayed away from a more happy, carefree mindset because some mistakes were made, and something happened that kind of made you scared to lose anymore. But you can learn from those mistakes without letting it kind of, you know, affect your entire personality or way of being, or strategy for life, right? So you have to measure the way that you let things affect you. Yes, you should learn from them, but no, you shouldn't allow them to you know, change your lifestyle to the point where you end up in some sort of a depression, or you're not living your best life, right? Now, what's in your current environment is the Hierophant here, also called the Pope. So this is regulations, rules, structure, institutions, things like that. So the energy of having to maintain these structures of society essentially is possibly really tangible around you right now. There could be a lot of stress to make the bills or pay the rent. These kind of things could be a struggle for you right now. And or if not a struggle, you're very concerned about it. You're looking at the financial situation, or not. I don't want to say specifically the financial situation, because you might be okay financially, but you're thinking about the future and security and those types of things. So that's kind of what's on your mind. There's a good bet that your financial situation is perfectly fine, really, but you're kind of looking at it the wrong way in some capacity. So what you have for your fears is this Eight of Cups in the reverse. So, the Eight of Cups upright would be kind of like walking away from a situation, or being a little bit withdrawn, or it can be kind of suppression. But oftentimes when you're walking away in the Eight of Cups, it's because you really need to. There's like a need to release from some tension in the situation or something like that, and you want to walk away from it. Now, in this case, being in the upright, it would mean that you're afraid of walking, afraid of not walking away. So sometimes in the reverse, these things get a little bit complicated. But it would mean that you are feeling a little bit trapped, and you're not wanting to feel trapped. You have an intrinsic need to be a kind of a free-spirited type of person. And so if you've gone down this road of being a little bit more careful and calculated, it could be sort of like grinding against your true being a little bit. I think it was Jim Carrey that was saying that depression is essentially your avatar body telling you that it doesn't want to play the role that you've selected for it anymore. Right. So, I mean, that's a way of thinking of it, where you're kind of trying to force yourself into this box that you maybe weren't necessarily meant to be in. And you need to open yourself back up a little bit to craziness, become a little bit more in tune with the wild ride that life is, instead of trying to make it predictable or controllable. Now, what you have for your overall outcome or your overall message is justice. Okay, so justice means that, in the long run, things happen according to specific laws and logic in the universe, that you don't have to constantly be worried or be afraid, because what actually happens is, if you're worried or afraid about how things are going to happen, that is mental energy that is actually not being focused on what is happening or what you need to do in the present moment. And instead, you're focusing on these sort of like hypothetical situations about what might be able to happen. And even though it feels like you're doing a good thing, you're really distracting yourself from being in the present moment. So think of it this way. It's like every decision that you make has a little bit, let's say, even 5%. It has a 5% chance of not going well, or not going as planned, if you're just 5% distracted and not in that present moment. So, you make hundreds or thousands of decisions a day. How much better do you think your life would be if you made 5% of those decisions more effectively, or made better decisions 5% of the time? Your life would be incalculably better in a very short time if you were just more present, So the right way to get your life back in order is not necessarily to worry about it or to be thinking about it all the time, but it's to bring your focus back to the present reality. And when things do happen, when you do make mistakes, don't beat yourself up over those mistakes, but instead figure out what the lesson is and move forward from it. You don't do the same thing twice, obviously, but you don't dwell on those mistakes or let them really negatively affect your life either. So that's about it for your reading today, Leo. you know, I forgot to mention, if you are a subscriber, I would be very happy to draw a few extra cards for you if that's something you're interested. Just let me know in the comments. Also, let me know what you thought about the reading. How did it resonate with you? Did you enjoy it? And thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.